Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
Well, I didn't want it in the first place. I never really wanted your stupid, whatever that thing was, because it's dumb, it's stupid. And no, I didn't want it. You can have it. You just keep it. I know we've all wrestled with, New Year's resolutions because we're 2 weeks into the new year, and I know there are people who have already said, forget it, give it, I don't want it, I never wanted it in the first place, about the goals they set for themselves. 2 weeks in, already given up on them. I want to talk about the quit cycle today on Leading Leaders Podcast. Stay tuned.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I want you to know that the quit cycle is not just a fairy tale. It's actually very, very real, and I think probably every human experiences this quit cycle. Now, it came to me more obvious and relevant. I've lived with it on and off all of my life because I, like everybody else, struggle with the imposter syndrome and self-confidence. And am I really everything that I portray myself to be? Am I really as good as I want to be? And if you've never struggled with that, then either you're a narcissist or you're really, really good at managing your own self-confidence and balance with your own competence. And if that's you, the latter, then I would suspect that it's taken you quite a bit of time and a lot of research and a lot of heartache to reach that point. But most of us still struggle with looking in the mirror and going, well, you told them you could do that, but are you sure you can pull that off? Are you really that good? I know you set a goal of selling X by the end of the year, or losing that amount of weight, or landing that new job, or moving into that next level of education, or maybe just getting a date with that one individual. I know you set that goal for yourself, but do you really deserve it? Are you really that good? And so the quit cycle is that group of things that happen inside our mind, that happen inside our heart, that eventually happen inside our stories, that disqualify us from accomplishing the goals that we've set for ourselves. I've been reading recently the 10X Rules by Grant Cardone, and he kind of mentions this concept. In fact, he's the first person I heard the concept, the quit cycle, from. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, yeah, that's actually true. And so I wanted to expand on it and extrapolate not just what he said, but to add to it those things that have been my own experience, my own research. And for the people that I've coached, I've seen them kind of go through these cycles as well. From military career all the way through my most recent clients. When we start getting to that place where they're about to step on stage in front of a camera or a large crowd, and they freeze up a little bit, and the first question they're asking themselves deep inside is, am I really worthy? Am I really competent? Am I really worthwhile? And so I want to talk about the 4 stages of the quit cycle today. I want to talk about what they are and what they look like, and maybe help you recognize, am I in one of those stages now? And if so, what's coming next? And how will I know that I've finished the last stage and moved into this stage? And on the next episode, we're actually going to talk about the motivation cycle, which is completely different in the way that we deal with it in our mind. And I think if you'll take some time to listen through these stages and ask yourself, have I been through those stages before? Am I in those stages now? Then when we talk in the next episode about the motivation cycle, you can look back at these stages and go, oh, that's the contrast to, here's how I fix that. But if you're not willing to be honest, aware, sincere about this quit cycle, then the odds are you'll just keep finding yourself falling back into it. And they say that a rut is a grave with both ends dug out. A rut is a grave with both ends dug out. Well, a rut is made for 4x4s and deer. Deer love to rut because, well, that's where baby deer come from. But 4x4s love ruts because they love to jump through the mud. Humans don't like ruts. Well, we might say we're getting in a groove, but there's a difference between a groove and a rut. Once you're in a rut, it's really hard to get out of. Now, You should know that ruts are in your brain as well. There are neurocycles in your brain, neuro pathways in your brain, where once you get into a habit, until you change that habit, you will be in a rut. You will perform the things of that habit again and again and again and again until they wear you out. And one of those habits is, well, what I would call the quit cycle. So I want you to think through this with me. I want you to ask yourself, am I in any of these quit cycle stages right now? Here's the first one. The first stage of the quit cycle doesn't seem like a bad thing. In fact, it seems like, well, that's what I ought to be doing in the first place. And that is, I'm fighting 100% for the thing that I want. So this first stage is called the fight. And when I'm in the fight, I've set my goals. I know where I'm going. I know what I want. I know what it's going to look like even when I get there. I can already articulate the accomplishment. One of my goals for 2025 is to have 150 new students, members in the Story Power Academy. Now, those are of all different walks and shapes, different stages, different sizes of membership, different things that they'll be doing. Some studying leadership, some working as mentors, some being a part of the Story Power Academy to learn to be better communicators. But to have 150 of them in there, I have to visualize what would that look like. Well, here's one way that I can visualize what that looks like. It looks like a Zoom call, because we do a Zoom call Q&A once a month for everybody in the Story Power Academy, where we all get on and I answer questions for anybody from any direction that is a part of the Story Power Academy. So on that Zoom call, if I've got 5 pages of 30 people on there, I've got 150 participants on that call. That's what success would look like in that one measure. Now, how do I get there? Well, I fight. What does that fight look like? Well, for me, that fight looks like I've got to be doing the marketing. I've got to be telling people about it. I've got to be talking up the Story Power Academy. Why would you want to be a participant? Why would you invest in this? What's the outcome going to be for you? That looks like getting in front of as many people as I can in as many ways as I can and telling them all about the benefits of this so that they'll look at it and go, that would be a great investment for me. I believe I could get from it what you promised that I could get from it. That's what the fight looks like for me. In another area, I want to drop some more pounds. The last time I was on the scale, I was at like 205. I want to get down to 185. Well, what does that fight look like? It looks like the fight that says, stop at the carrot cakes and cupcakes. Push away from the sugar. Stay away from that garbage. It's not making you any better. It's going to shorten your life, kill your brain, and make fat. So I've got to fight against the craving for sugar. That's what the fight looks like. Now, early on, it's real easy to be in that fight cycle and feel like, I got this. I can keep your donuts. No, thank you. It seems really easy. And early on in the cycle, that fight, that struggle, that constant pushing against the old habit toward the new habit, breaking the old cycle, getting out of the rut, creating a new habit. Forget the carrot cake, just eat the carrot. Forget the donuts, find an apple. Those decisions, that fight cycle, it's when you feel like you're given 100% to reach the goal that you're after. Now, again, that goal may not be lose weight, build your business. It might be build a relationship. It might be have the confidence to stand in front of a crowd and talk. It might be passing that next test. But in the fight cycle, you're giving it everything you've got to see that come to pass. Now, here's the next cycle, and I'll take this and give credit to Grant Cardone because most of us are unwilling to admit that the second stage in the quit cycle comes so abruptly behind the first stage. The first stage is fight, 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 fight. Go get it. Get up, exercise, take the walk, put down the donut, grab the apple, open the books, study, stay up late, get up early. Whatever it is you got to do, you fight, 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 fight for that goal because you want to see that come to pass. But immediately behind the fight cycle comes the cry cycle. The cry cycle. This is when we say, well, I wanted to be at this goal weight by this time. I wanted to be completely off of sugar within 2 weeks. Not realistic. Probably not going to happen. But I wanted to get that first date with that person or close that sale or build my business to this level. And I wanted to do it by this date. And what we're unwilling to admit sometimes is that's just not realistic. It's not practical to build a house in 24 hours. Can it be done? I'm sure it could. Can it be done well? I'm not sure it could. The question that you have to ask yourself is, am I crying about not reaching this goal the way I wanted, to the level I wanted, and the time that I wanted, because my want, my desire, my goal was unrealistic, impractical, or, and this is a hard one for most of us to admit, there are other mitigating circumstances that will prevent that. I mean, if you want to grow fresh carrots in your own garden, it's very unlikely you plant them on Monday and harvest them on Wednesday and eat them for dinner on Thursday. It doesn't work like that. And there's nothing that you can do to make that a reality. You can wish it, you can want it, you can poke it, you can prod it, you can try as hard as you want. Carrots don't grow in 48 hours. And all of the things that are outside of your control are within the control of the Creator. He decides how long it takes a seed to gestate. He decides how long it takes that seed to grow. Now, you can alter the amount of fertilizer you put in the ground, the amount of water, the rich nutrients in the dirt. You can adjust those things, so to speak, but you can't change how long a seed takes to become a plant or a baby. It's not within your control. And throwing a temper tantrum and crying and whining because it didn't happen the way you wanted it to in the time that you wanted it to, well, it's the natural course of action. We have a 2-year-old who's potty training right now, granddaughter in the family to be, and she has this thing for throwing temper tantrums to get her way about everything from when she eats to what she eats to how long she has to sit in the high chair to eat. And she's discovered that if she says those words, I have to potty, the world stops. Everybody stops what they're doing. And they rush her to the potty. And she's discovered at 2 that she can control the world with her bladder. If she says, I have to potty, cars pull over on the side of the highway. People stop where they're at. Why? Because she's not wearing a diaper right now. She's wearing little girl panties, like a big girl. And as she's learning that if I yell, I have to potty, the world stops and she gets what she wants right then. She's also learned that she can manufacture a potty if she has to. She can hold it and not tell anybody. And then at that time, when she's not getting her way, she can wet herself and everything around her. The other night, she hadn't finished her dinner and she wanted to scream and yell because she wanted out of the high chair. Really what she wanted to do was feed her chicken nuggets to the puppy. And she screamed and she yelled and she threw a fit and she kicked and she rocked and tried to turn her chair over and nearly hit her head on the tile. And she screamed some more and she yelled some more and she cried. She fought to get what she wanted. She didn't get what she wanted, so she cried to get what she wanted in the way she wanted it, in the time that she wanted. And when that didn't work, I have to potty. Well, Poppy didn't fall for that trick because I think I've seen that one a time or two with now more than a dozen grands and 4 of our own. I've been there. And I said, no, you can hold it until you finish your chicken nuggets. Then you can get down and you can go to the potty. And so she looked me in the eye and filled herself and her chair and a nice little puddle in the floor. Because she didn't get what she wanted in the time that she wanted it. Now, I'm guessing most of you watching this podcast, you're grown adults. You're not likely to wet yourself because you don't get your way. You don't get what you want right away. But you still cry. You still throw a fit. Maybe not actual little crocodile tears coming down your face, but you get an attitude. You get edgy, you get mean, you get rude, you don't get your way, so you get your feelers hurt. I would ask you if I was in class to raise your hand, because chances are you can look back on something in your life, a date, a relationship, a job, a promotion, a sale closed. You didn't get it. You didn't get what you wanted when you wanted, and so it became a temper tantrum. Now, if you're not willing to say that's true, then I challenge your honesty. And I'm not asking you to tell me. I am asking you to look in the mirror and go, Yeah, I can think of a time that I didn't get what I wanted. I tried really hard to get it. I fought for it. The fight cycle was there. I did everything I could, and it didn't come the way I wanted it when I wanted it. Now, even right there, there's a decision tree. Because you can continue to fight while you cry. Continue to do the work. You step on the scales on the 15th and you go, well, crap. I didn't lose 45 pounds in 15 days like I thought I was going to. What now? I don't keep walking. Keep trying. Keep pushing away the donuts and pulling in the apples. Take some more supplements. Try a little harder in your exercise. There are a lot of ways you can continue to fight. Or you can cry and throw a temper tantrum. And at this moment, you can go back to fighting and keep fighting. Even though the timing wasn't what you wanted, exactly what you wanted didn't happen, you can quit here and move into the cry and go to the next phase, or you can go back to the fight. Now, the next phase is concede. Here's the problem with concede. This is when you say to yourself, I lost. I quit. Look, it's the 15th. I didn't lose the 40 pounds I wanted to lose in 2 weeks, so I'm going to go to the biggest dessert buffet I can. I'm going to gorge myself. I may be 5,000 pounds when I walk out of there, but by golly, I'll enjoy my dessert. You've conceded. You're not going to fight anymore. Maybe you're even done crying about it. I didn't get that date, that job, that relationship. I didn't get that pay raise, that promotion, or that sale. I didn't build my business the way I wanted to, so forget it. And that's where the quit cycle takes you from, I'm no longer fighting, I'm no longer crying about it, I just give up. I admit I'm a failure. I admit that I'm a failure. And you concede. And you go from fight to cry to concede. Well, there's only one thing left. And that is in order to save your ego, to save your self-esteem from the failure of having quit. I fought for it, I didn't get it. I cried about it and it didn't come even when I cried about it. Things didn't change when I cried about it. So instead of going back to the fight stage, I go on to the concede stage. I give up. I quit. I forget about it. In order to salve the ego at that moment, the next stage, this is really the heartbreaking stage. But I have to be honest and say most of the people that I coach, most of the people that I find that are struggling with this quit cycle, they spend most of their time in this fourth stage, the convince stage. This is the stage where they begin to tell themselves and everybody around them, I didn't want it in the first place. It's not that big a deal. Hey, I give up. I tried. It didn't work. It broke my heart. It cost me time. It cost me money. It cost me other relationships. I'm done. I'm out. Forget it. Forget about it. Now, be honest with yourself and ask whether in raising children or developing leadership in other employees or working with teenagers, or if you're honest, you're willing to look in the mirror and say of yourself, I have at least once in my life uttered the words, forget it, never mind. And I didn't want it that bad in the first place. Maybe even you've said something like, I didn't deserve it. I didn't really desire it. I only wanted it because that's what everybody else told me that I should want. I remember watching a young boy on a motivational speech. He was probably 10 years old, maybe younger than that. He was on the stage in front of the Teachers Education Association, giant gathering here in DFW. I believe it was at the Arlington Convention Center. Tens of thousands of people in the audience, and they asked him, what do you want when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And he looked for a moment at the people around him, realizing these are all teachers and educators. And I'm guessing that something in his little brain said, they want me to say, I want to be a teacher when I grow up. I want to be a rocket scientist when I grow up. It was kind of the trick question. It was like they were baiting him to say whatever he said, and the follow-up to his answer would have been, well, you're going to need an education for that. And when they asked him the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? He kind of stepped back a little bit as if to say, I don't want to be offensive or hurt your feelings, but Can I say I just want to be happy? Whoa, that kind of messes up the whole thing. You messed up the question and the answer, because now I can't follow up with you. Well, you got to have this. I can't dictate your life for you anymore, because what you decided to want isn't in the realm of things that I have control over. Now, what if you were to look at your own life and say, there are some things that I have conceded, I've given up on. Look, I'm going to be honest. I don't barely have the balance to walk across the room some days. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. I did play football in high school. I was a firefighter in the military. I've been physical, really physical in my life. I've slowed down a little bit. I haven't been as disciplined at it. But I've never been in condition enough to be a ballerina or a gymnast. Backflip, probably not in my future. I'm just being honest. And I can honestly say, was never in my list of desires. Oh, I wanted to play football at a higher level. In fact, probably one of the deepest emotional regrets that doesn't have to do with a relationship had to do with the day that I turned in my pads when I was playing for the USAFE, the U.S. Air Force All of Europe football team. The day that they began putting out assignments, and I turned to the coach and I said, look, I've decided I'm going to take this last year in the Air Force and I'm going to write my first book as opposed to stay with the football team. It's just going to take, more time to do that than this. And you could see the disappointment on his face, but you also see kind of the quizzical aspect of it. He started asking questions about the book, and after that conversation, I just looked at him. I said, honestly, Coach, is there a chance that I would have actually made the team? I mean, I always played defensive, nose guard, or tackle, and he looked at me up and down. Now, this is a guy who was about 5'2", but built like a fire hydrant. He looked me up and down, and he goes, "You're way too small to be a lineman." And I thought, well, so much for that, because that's all I ever knew. I was only ever a lineman when I was in high school. And he said, but I have to be honest and tell you, at 190 pounds, I have never seen anybody as fast and agile as you are. But my ego had already made the decision, I'm quitting the team. He said, I would have loved to have had you as a fullback. I think you, especially if you've been playing line and you know how to block and you know how to get your body against somebody else's, man, you would have been lethal as a fullback. But I'd already decided to quit, so my ego wouldn't let me go back. And I look back even today and I think, I really wish I'd stayed at it at least another week. And that's something I could have done in my early 20s, at the prime of my physical ability, to have a coach who believed in me to do something I'd never done before. And yet I turned it around and I walked away because my ego said, I've already made a decision. I was already further along in the quit cycle. I'd already given up the fight. I'd already begun convincing myself to move on. Now, maybe you've convinced yourself. Maybe you've heard someone say, look, I'm done. I didn't want that anyway. It's one thing to be realistic and go, I'm never going to be a ballerina. I don't have the agility at my age. I don't have the balance at my age. You'd have to be better than a great coach to convince me that standing on my toes, I've got a toenail about to fall off just from kicking the ice off the sidewalk. Yeah, I'm old. But I know those things that I can look forward to and go, if I invest myself 100% in that, and I don't fall into that cry phase and then the concede phase, then I won't start convincing myself I never really wanted it in the first place. But how many people do you know, before the fight begins, when they begin setting the goals, that financial goal for the year, I want to earn X. Maybe it's the first time in 6 figures. Maybe you're looking at 7 figures as gross earnings for yourself or your company. Maybe you're looking at it going, well, last year we did 10 million. This year we're pushing for 20. Maybe you're looking at that 9 figures for the first time. You're really pushing for that $1 million mark. And there's something in you going, I'm not sure I deserve that. The last thing I want to do is try really hard and fail and feel like an abysmal failure. I don't want to say that I'm going to go for that and then not see it happen, because then I'll cry and then I'll concede and then I'll be right back here convincing myself I never really wanted it in the first place. I just thought it was the right thing to say. And like the young boy who said, can I just say I want to be happy? Is that acceptable? Is that tolerable? Can I just be happy? Is that good enough? See, the challenge for many of us is we start off convincing ourselves that whatever that goal was that one time fired a spark off in our mind, well, we're really not that good. We're not really that competent, that educated, that confident. Even if 7 figures came my way, I wouldn't know what to do with them. Even if 8 or 9 figures, it just walked into the door one day and went, this is for you, I would not know how to handle it. Wouldn't know how to handle myself. See, that convincing sometimes starts before the goal setting does. We start telling ourselves a story that will destroy us before our opportunity even arrives. Well, if opportunity, if luck, if preparedness, if they meet at an intersection and there's enough preparedness when the opportunity comes along, what we call luck is usually the result to that. Or as John Maxwell says, look, if you want to do what I do, you got to be willing to do what I did. And realize that it took 25 years to create this overnight success. That means in your fight cycle, in the fighting phase of the quit cycle, you've got to fight even when you want to cry. You've got to believe that you deserve this goal, that you are worthy of this goal, that this goal is worthy of you. And when you can work on convincing yourself of that story power as an inside job, when you can work on that, you'll find that there's a whole lot more opportunity for you than you could have ever imagined. A whole lot more chance to be lucky because you're willing to fight. Now, like I said, in the next episode, we're going to talk about the motivation cycle. What does that look like? What stages do we have to go through to stay motivated? How do we motivate ourselves? How do we motivate others? What does it look like as you're progressing through that? That's exactly what we're going to talk about. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you find yourself in the convincing stage of the quit cycle before you even started, you're in trouble. You better get a coach, a mentor, a friend who cares about you, who will look at you and be honest and go, okay, I will agree you may never be a ballerina, but there's nothing stopping you from writing your first book. Even if that company doesn't hire you for the job that you've applied for, there are a million other companies out there with the same position and the same pay scale, and they might consider you. To quit now, to concede, to write yourself off, to write off your future because you just can't see it yet. That's the quit cycle happening in rapid succession inside your mind. As Bob Newhart said, just stop it. Find a way to land yourself in the fight cycle. Find something worth fighting for. Now, I have to be honest and say I tell myself this story on a regular basis to remind me I was 298 pounds at one point. 205 is pretty good progress. I still got a long way to go. I get it. But from 298 to 205 is pretty good progress. You want to know one of the things that broke that cycle for me? That pushing 300 pound cycle? I was standing at a wedding. The same wedding, in fact, where the bride and her daddy walked onto the dance floor. My daughter and I were emceeing and DJing that wedding. She was controlling the music. I was controlling the microphone. And as they walked on the dance floor and I announced them, the father of the bride stopped by the DJ booth and he said to my daughter, change the song from that to this. And my daughter searched it up and she pulled the song up and she started playing it. And as she's playing, I was like, that's not really a question. She said, he just changed it. I said, okay, I trust you. And if that's what he wants. And so he walked to the dance floor. The background of the song started playing. It's got a long intro. I could see the little bride's face light up. Daddy's face lit up. Everybody in the crowd went, "Aw!" And then I look over to the screen and I realize that's a karaoke song. No words are going to come out of the speakers along with that song. And so I picked up the microphone and I started to sing it. And I was doing a pretty good job nailing it until about halfway through the second verse. And my voice started to crack and my eyes started to water and my daughter standing next to me is hugging me and there wasn't a dry in the house and everybody applauded. We ended the song early and we moved on. And later in that night, in over 1,000 weddings that I've been a part of as an MC or a DJ, I think maybe twice I've asked for a second piece of cake because it was that good. That night was one of those. And I asked my daughter to go snatch me another piece of cake. And before she went to get it, she looked me in the eye and she said, "If you keep eating wedding cake like that, you're not going to be here for my wedding." Talk about a gut punch. Well, that little girl just celebrated 10 years of marriage, I believe it was, and she has 6 sons of her own. And I got to see her this last weekend. And I'm still around, and she's still around. And I'm not 298 pounds anymore because I found something to fight for. Now, do you still cry when you didn't get under 200 pounds of the goal you wanted? Yes. You still get upset when you realize I've tried so hard and I haven't done it. I have been pushing for that 6-figure number for years. And I haven't gotten there yet. I've gotten really close a couple of times, but I refuse to quit. I will not concede that 6 figures is not in the cards for me. I'm not willing to convince myself that what I grew up with, that inner dialogue, that deeply held belief that the rich get rich and the poor go broke, and who would want to be rich because it's their fault. I will not let that determine what my outcome is. And so I go from fight to cry, and instead of concede, I go back to fight. Fight, cry, fight some more. It's okay if you cry about it. If you didn't get it when you wanted, if you didn't quite reach the goal, if you got close but not there yet, cry if you need to. Sometimes a good cry is good for you. But don't go from cry to concede, because then you'll begin to convince yourself, I wasn't worthy, I didn't want it, I never wanted it in the first place. And if you go from fight to cry and then back to fight, fight another day. Keep going for it. Keep trying. Yeah, I realize today is the 13th of January and you're probably going to fail some more before the end of the month. Yeah, get over it. Don't give up on it just because you haven't gotten that win yet. If you'll keep fighting, your win will come. And when you win, you can tell the world how you did it. But if you quit, all you can tell the world is why you weren't worthy of the goals that you set for yourself. That is not the way you want to live your life. That's not the legacy you want to leave. What if success is your responsibility? What if success is your duty? Now, that could be success in your discipleship, in your discipline, in your exercise, success in your diet, success in your financial goals, success in building a business big enough to employ 1,000 people so that you can change the lives of 1,000 people. You mark success how you want to, but once you've labeled what success looks like, understand it's on you. Nobody's going to bring you success. Nobody's going to hand it to you. It's up to you. You have to fight for it, and you might have to cry for it. But you've got to go from fight to cry and back to fight, not fight to cry and on to concede. The minute you give up those dreams and say, I wasn't worthy of them, nobody's bringing them. It doesn't come to you just because you give up. Now, there will be times in your life when you feel like just about the time I gave up, that's when the dream came through. The relationship between those two is not what you think it is. The timing probably more impeccable than you know. I do believe you got to surrender those dreams to an almighty God, but I don't believe you have to give them up and say, I was never worthy of them. Fight, cry, then fight some more. That's how you beat the quit cycle. Be here in the next episode. We're going to talk about the motivation cycle and how you can get yourself moving with momentum to go after those dreams. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I encourage you to go to storypoweracademy.com and check it out. Look at the different classes, the different levels, the different things that are available. You can take a lot of them a la carte. But spend some time there and see if that's the kind of thing that would change the way you communicate as a leader, as a pastor, as a counselor, as a political leader. And if that will help you, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Again, only 10 people in the elite speakers. You will have to apply for that. But if you're a candidate, I'd love to have that conversation with you. I'm J Loren Norris with Story Power Academy. I look forward to seeing you inside.